Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Divorce Talk with Twyla show. I am your host. I'm Twyla M. Marks. It is a live weekly YouTube show every Monday night at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. It's where we talk all things divorce. You will be encouraged, inspired, informed, and empowered. Welcome and enjoy the show. Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Divorce Talk with Twyla show. I'm so glad you're here. I am Twyla M. Marks, your number one divorce recovery expert. I'm an author, I'm a speaker, I'm a life coach, and I help you recover from divorce. Listen, divorce can be from people, places, or things. What do you need to divorce from your life on today? I want to talk a little bit about, first off, a little bit about my story and the topic of the show on tonight. But I appreciate you watching on tonight. I appreciate you that will watch the replay and those that follow the channel. There will be no Divorce Talk with Twyla show without you. So thank you so very much. Thank you all. So y'all do know I've gone through a divorce, and tonight's topic is holidays and divorce. And I remember when I went through my tumultuous divorce years ago, man, y'all, that first holiday, that major holiday, which was Christmas for me, because Thanksgiving, I typically work on Thanksgiving, but that holiday, Christmas time was rough, and I had to follow what the guidelines said. That court order divorce decree was no joke. I mean, I had to, or I was going to be thrown in jail, and I was going to go to jail over not abiding by the visitation guidelines. So my son had to go. He had to go with his dad. And I recall that first one, my daughter and I sat around and cried. She was like, oh, it's just me. Had a little time away from her little brother, but it was rough. So are you in that space, finding yourself, you having a lot of anxiety, don't know what to do? This may be your first year after going through a divorce. You just don't know what to do. So, well, listen, we have an amazing guest on tonight. Her name is Miss Christina McGhee. She is, y'all, let me just read her story, her biography. She is an internationally recognized divorce parenting expert. She's a speaker. She's an author. She's been featured in the Parents magazine and the Today's Parents segment, just to name a few. So let's just welcome Miss Christina McGhee to the Divorce Talk with Twyla show.
Hey,
hello, Christina.
Twyla. Hi there. I'm so excited to be here tonight.
Awesome. I'm so excited that you're here and you graciously accepted the invitation to come on the show. So, Christina, I know I introduced you and gave a little bit of background about who you are, but tell the listeners or the viewers a little more about who you are and a little bit about your personal background as it relates to possibly divorce. And then we'll just dive right on into our show topic on tonight.
Okay, well, to give you the long and the short of it, I didn't grow up going, I hope someday I can be a divorce coach. As a matter of fact, it was never on my radar. It was one of those situations for most of us, right, where our personal lives and our professional lives kind of collided. And so when I fell in love with the man I wanted to spend the rest of my life with, he came with two very young children because he had been married before. And so I went from blushing bride to bonus mom like that. Yeah, just like that. And I can tell you, I had no idea what I was doing. None. Who does? I always tell people, like, being a bonus parent is like standing on the edge of a really cold swimming pool. And somebody tells you the water's going to be really cold in there, but you really have no idea until you jump right in. And it's it's kind of a shock to the system.
Yes. Great analogy, by the way. Love that. Yes.
Yeah. So as a child of divorce, my parents divorced when I was a teenager. I was pretty clear about what I didn't want to happen, but I wasn't very clear about how to make this situation work for the children that had just become
Mhm.
a very important part of my life. So
Yeah.
I started reading and researching everything I could get my hands on. And
Mhm.
one of the things in our jurisdiction is that when parents go through divorce or litigation, or they're having to mediate, they get sent to a parent education class. And my
Oh.
husband had to take that class. And when he came back, he handed me a business card and he goes, "You should be teaching this." And
Oh.
I was like, "Why?" Like, I just didn't not on my radar. I should be educating separating and divorced parents. I should be teaching classes. I really didn't, it just wasn't something that I had thought about doing professionally. But he gave me a business card of the lady that was teaching, and I thought, oh, it's just a conversation, right?
Mhm.
But that conversation turned into a passion, right, for
Oh.
wanting to make a difference for children of divorce. And I learned very quickly that if I really wanted to make a difference for kids,
Mhm.
I had to start finding some way to support parents, because you can give kids all the skills in the world, but if
Oh,
you
yeah.
don't give them an environment
Mhm.
where those skills can thrive, they don't have that kind of support from their parents, you're really
Mhm.
kind of setting kids up. So I moved
Yeah.
into being someone who works directly with parents and educating them on how do we make this, life in two homes
Yeah.
work for kids.
Oh, yeah. And you said so much there, but I love the latter part where you just said you asked the question, how do we make this life work in two homes for the kids? And that's the difficult challenge for many people that go through divorce because there's so many
Hmm.
emotions, right? There's so many emotions still
Yes.
all over the place. And it's not, I tell people, Christina, it's not about you. It's not about your ex or former spouse or however you address them. It is about the kids. If there are minor children in that relationship or past marriage, it's all about the kids. And you don't get there overnight. It
No.
takes work, takes work. And so for someone like yourself to work in this, I don't even call it work. It's your passion, it's your purpose, it's your calling, right? To be in this space to help families of divorcees and to get through the holidays. What do you tell them when clients come to you? I'm sure they could possibly be all over the place emotionally, right? They probably don't know what to do and how to do it, and that's why they're seeking your help as a divorce coach.
But I think one of the first things, and it seems like it's pretty obvious, but actually, when you're in it, it's not. And that is remembering that kids are following your lead. So you
Yeah.
really need to figure out how you're going to keep your emotions in check. Like, how will you manage those strong emotions you just talked about? I mean, just listening to your opening story, right? About how hard that very first Christmas was.
Yeah.
How is it that we can responsibly manage our emotions? It doesn't mean that we tuck everything up and we, you know, act like we're not phased. I think it's
Right.
important to be authentic with kids, but we also need to be responsible, because if kids see us falling apart, what kind
Yeah.
of message is that sending to them? Or parents go to the other extreme and they kind of gloss over it. They act like everything's fine. It's all going to be okay, when clearly things don't feel okay. And there's no space for the sadness for kids. And that sends a subtle message of, well, it's not okay to be sad. And we
Hmm.
can't talk about it. And so kids start filtering the things that they say to parents
Hmm.
because they want parents to be okay.
Yeah. That's so true. That's so true. So, Christina, going back to what you said earlier about your personal story and the kids, you were a bonus mom immediately. How did that work for you as opposed to someone that may not have been a bonus mom? What was the difference there, do you think, for you and your situation as it relates to the kids?
Well, I think that kind of when you become a bonus parent,
Mhm.
it's not an easy transition, right? Because your life is very influenced by the choices that
Mhm.
your bonus children's parents are making, but you're not always in the mix, you know. And I think one of the things that was really important is that I gave the relationship time to grow on its own,
Mm.
and allowed it to be whatever it needed to be, um, and not rushing into wanting to be a mom figure or
Ooh.
insisting that kids had to treat me a certain way. It was like, let's get to know each other and really try to come to it, respecting that we had different histories, and figuring out how do we merge those histories and how do we become a family, not a replacement family, but a different kind of family. And that's why I like the term bonus, because it's
I
in
love the
addition
term
to.
bonus.
Yeah.
I love the term bonus. I did a show like a while back. Oh gosh, probably a couple seasons ago about this very topic. Bonus mom, bonus dad. I love the term. I don't like step dad, step mom. If it works for you, it works for you. But personally,
Right.
bonus, yeah, is it for me. So let's dive deeper into our subject tonight about the holidays and children. What do you what kind of advice or suggestions or tips do you provide folks as relates to this very topic, holidays? That first one I know is tough, and we may have folks that are watching that will watch this show that they're just like a basket case right now. They don't know what to do.
Hmm.
The thought of sending their child, son, daughter, whomever it is, with that non-custodial parent probably gives them pains in their stomach. I mean, what do you suggest?
Well, I think that it's really important for children to know that divorce is a change in the family. It's not the end of the family,
Right.
and that they will continue to share a life with each of their parents. And so one of my top recommendations, and this is just across the board, is
Mhm.
frame how you talk about this transition, how you talk about this change. Instead
Mhm.
of this is your main home, talk about having two homes. You have a home with mom and mama, or dad and papa, or mom and dad.
Yeah.
And each home is a place you belong.
Right.
And that applies to the holidays as well. So the holidays, I think you want to state the obvious. It's going to
Mhm.
be different this year.
Yes.
So, what will different look like? And really kind of keeping kids in the loop. Don't go into it unprepared. I always say make a plan. So, if you're
Yeah.
really struggling, think about, um, what's important to your kids, what's really going to matter to them,
Yes.
and how are you going to make that happen. And remember that it doesn't have to revolve around a date on a calendar. I see so many
Oh,
parents get really hung up on, we have to be at grandma's on Christmas Eve for Christmas lunch. It has to happen. There's no other way around it.
yeah. Yeah.
And if they're not there, they're really going to miss out. Well, the truth is, when kids look back on their lives, most kids are not going, I remember in, 2022 on
Yeah.
December 25th at noon, we all sat around at grandma's table. And that's not why kids remember.
Yeah.
Kids
Exactly.
remember that special memory of baking cookies, or spending all day in our pajamas and having pancakes for breakfast, or that time we got to go to grandma's and the bird wasn't done and
Yeah.
everybody had to eat takeout chicken. I mean, but those are the things that stay with kids. And so I encourage parents, along with preparing, thinking
Hmm.
about what's really important,
Yes.
realize that different doesn't have to be devastating.
Oh wow. I love that. Different does not have to be devastating. Oh gosh. That is powerful. Yeah, I agree. And we had so many kids. They just want, and I used to tell this to my son when he was growing up. You're gonna still have a relationship with me, mom, the custodial parent. That's where you live primarily. That's where he lived primarily. And then you're his dad. And I said, nothing's gonna change that. He's your dad forever. I'm your mom forever. Now we have to figure out a way to make this work, not living in the same household. And we did. We got it right, Christina, after about 3 years. But it took work. So, do you have folks that will may ask you, well, what do I do? Or should I prepare the my son's dad or my daughter's dad or whoever, that whatever the case may be, for the family gathering? Or do you tell them just let them let it happen organically and let it flow naturally? What do you suggest? Because there may be folks watching that may ask, well, should I call them and how do I do this? And my personal opinion, yeah, you can call them and wish them whatever, Merry Christmas, but just let that child be with the other parent during this time, right? Don't be selfish because that is their time to be with their that other parent.
Well, so the way I like to look at parenting post divorce is to
Mhm.
look at it. I use an on duty, off duty concept. And so the
Okay.
on duty parent is the parent who is in the moment with the child. So maybe that
Mhm.
is the parent that's there Christmas morning, that's opening presents, or maybe that's the parent that's lighting Hanukkah candles with the
Mhm.
child. And the other parent who's not in the child's presence at the moment
Okay.
is the off duty parent. So if you think of it like you would think of a football game, not everybody gets on the field at the same time,
Right.
right? So you have one parent that's in the game that's taking care of those immediate needs and is with the child, and you have one that's sitting on the sidelines who can be called into the game at any moment if needed, that is still supportive
Yeah.
of the child,
Yeah.
who may call or text or, show up at a Christmas play. Like they're still
Mhm.
playing a very engaged and interactive role. And those parenting roles are interchangeable, they're not
Yeah.
static. And so, no matter how the time is spent, whether it's, 60-40 or it's 70-30,
Yeah.
doesn't really matter because children belong and have a place with each parent. So you just talk about time with mom, time with dad.
Right.
Um, and so in those Christmas holidays, I think it's okay for a parent to call. You want to take a balanced approach, right? You don't want to call so much that kids never get to sink in to a moment with
Yeah.
parents, but you also, especially with really young kids who don't have a great concept of time, they're going to need
Mhm.
that call.
Okay.
Um,
Yes.
so that they have that ongoing connection. They know you're not going to disappear from their lives, because with littles, like, it's either right now or forever.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of in between. And
Yeah.
older kids, even though they give us every indication that they don't need us, they
Yes.
still do.
They still do.
And so part of the calling when the kids are with the other parent is also setting the tone to say, you know, we're supporting this co-parenting relationship. You don't have to, it's not like you're crossing a line or a boundary,
Mhm.
where I disappear for, 4 or 5 days or a week or whatever the schedule is.
Right.
We're still both here for you,
Mhm.
even though how we're spending time has changed.
That's so good. I love that. And you mentioned about the age difference, whatever the age appropriate conversation needs to be had. Because, like you mentioned, the littles, may need a little bit more of connection or, hand holding. But the older ones are like, oh, okay, mom, dad, see you when I get back or whatever, So,
But we
yeah,
all like to feel important, right?
right.
And so, when we get in touch with our kids, even though they act like, "Oh, yeah, okay, Merry Christmas," right? It, it still matters. It still matters. They still want to hear from their parents. And again, it's that subtle, we're sending a very subtle message
Hmm.
that you're supported and we're still here for you, and you are the focus of our relationship moving forward as parents, even though we're no longer partners.
Exactly, exactly. So, do you suggest that if the parents are on, well, I'm not even going to say if, do you suggest that the parents have conversations with each other prior to the visitation, this lengthy holiday season? And that may not even be the holidays, it could be like the spring break during school or
Right.
anything of that nature. But specifically speaking, because we're talking holidays and divorce tonight, but this could be any schedule on the anytime during the visitation schedule where parents may be feeling some type of anxiety or don't know what to do. What do you suggest? What they
Well,
do?
I think anytime that you can sit down together and have a conversation about what's going to be best for your kids, because the important thing to remember is that the divorce decree is an if all else fails document. Like it's if the two parties can't
Mhm.
mutually agree
Right.
to arrangements, then you go by whatever was agreed in the document. But if the two of you can sit down and have a conversation and say, how can we be flexible for the sake of our children, then you
Right.
can really do, the sky's the limit, right? You can do it any way you want as long as it works for your kids. Now, in the beginning stages, like you've pointed out, it took us 3 years to get there. That may be
Yeah.
a really tall order, right? You may need those kind of guidelines
Yes.
to kind of make it work until the dust settles and we get to a better place.
Yeah.
But when you can be flexible, that's certainly the most ideal option. So maybe you start the conversation by saying,
Yes.
"Hey, can we meet in person for coffee?" And I always recommend that if parents are going to have conversations, go to a
Yeah.
neutral location. Don't do it during
Absolutely.
drop-offs and pickups. Don't
Oh
do
no.
it at the front door, around the kitchen table. Um, Go to a local
Yeah.
coffee shop or go to a
Yeah.
restaurant, sit down and treat it like you would a business meeting, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
You have some agenda items. Here's some
Yeah.
things we need to work out. So, what are your thoughts? What's your proposal? What's my proposal? Let's see
Yeah.
if we can kind of come to an agreement and find middle ground.
Yeah. That is so good. Oh yes. Wow, you're hitting on the nail on the head, Christina. A lot of things that I experienced early on in my divorce. My gosh, why didn't I know you back then? All the people that come on my show, I'm like, if I would have just known you 15 years ago, my life would have been so much easier. But it was all for a purpose.
Well, that's not the first time I've heard that, Twyla.
Yes, wow. I know this season could be tough for a lot of people, maybe not only with divorce, but divorce is a loss. But they say
Hmm.
it's like a death. And for me, just dealing with the loss of the matriarch of our family, it's been rough in the holiday season. And so
Right.
if you've experienced any kind of loss, Christina, we all know divorce, a bad relationship, or God forbid, a loss of a loved one. The holidays is a difficult time for folks to
Hmm.
experience. And so I just hope that somebody, I'm sure, that watches this live or the replay will be encouraged on tonight, based upon their situation. And I say just let it grow. It doesn't happen overnight. Sometimes that you got to really work at having that better relationship with that co-parent. And I love your analogy on not analogy, but your um, definition: on duty, off duty parent. That is so great, as opposed to non-custodial. All these legal terms: non-custodial,
Right.
custodial. I love it. The on duty parent, off duty parent. Love that. So
Well, a lot of the legalese adds to the tension, right? Because if you're
yeah,
the non-custodial parent, I mean,
yeah.
what does that suggest? Less important parent, winner
Yeah.
loser, and so it sets up this dynamic. I mean, family court systems aren't designed to really
Mhm.
preserve the integrity of families or parent-children relationships.
At
So,
all. Not
but
at
you
all.
have the power to change that, and maybe you don't have a co-parent that's on board yet, but there, because there are a lot of people, I mean, what we're talking about, they go, yeah, well, that's great, but I don't have that kind of co-parent. Like, my co-parent won't even exchange words with me, or my co-parent's not cooperative. They won't show up at an event if I'm there. What do you do about that? And I think that it's important that you really remember the power of one. Like, you cannot
Mm,
change the other parent, but you can lean into your values, how you want to show up for your kids. And if
yeah.
kids can have one stable, consistent, nurturing, parent in their life that's trying to shield them from the conflict, they can still do remarkably well.
Yeah. Wow. Love it. Oh, yes. My. Well, folks, we hope that you learned something on tonight. You were encouraged, you were inspired, informed, and empowered, because this is a season where you can get through it, but it just takes some work and collaboration with the other parents. So, Christina, how can folks reach out to you and contact you for your services that you provide? Because this is so necessary and so important, and to get folks to a healthy place of parenting after divorce.
Sure. Well, one of the easiest ways to find me is to check out my website, divorceandchildren.com. I've got a lot of information, a lot of holiday articles. So if you go to the blog section, you can put in holidays and it'll bring up everything that I've ever written about holidays. And there's a lot of tips. And I can also share some of those with you if you want to put them in the show notes.
Yeah,
That's a great way for people to
yeah.
get information if they're interested in coaching. You can also, get in touch with me through my website if you want to do that. I'm on IG at Divorce and Children and Facebook, and I'm also on LinkedIn at Christina McGhee.
Yes, yes. Well, folks, there you have it. Reach out to Christina. She's amazing. And we hope, both of us, it's our hope and desire that you have an amazing holiday season. Even if it's your first time, get through that first one. It does get easier as the days and years go on. All right. Thanks so much, Christina, for being with me on tonight. And listen, you keep doing the work that you're doing because you're making a difference in folks' lives.
Well, thank you for that. And I really am grateful for the opportunity to share information and to have a conversation with you. So thanks,
Thank
Twyla.
you. You're so welcome. Talk to you soon. Bye. Well, folks, there you have it. Christina McGhee, she was amazing. And reach out to her if you're in this space of dealing with divorce in the holiday season. Been there, done that. It took some time, but I got there. My ex-husband and I, my son's dad, we got there, but it does take work. So next week's show guest is Miss Haley Lisa. She is a divorce coach specifically for men. She helps men exclusively recover from divorce. She's been a guest before on my show. You don't want to miss this because we're going to talk about some topics that men, you need to get in here and listen to that or watch that show next week. So that's all I have for you. Until next time, this is Twyla M. Marks, your #1 divorce recovery expert. I am out.